Hey, Danny came and left. User 901, what's up? Just starting this live. If you guys want to read the prompt, let's get into a little bit of Sunday. Sundays are like the perfect day for just a little bit of civics, politics. If you're an American, if you give a shit about our country, I hope you tune in a little bit. Probably not going to be that long of a live, maybe a half an hour or so, as we're just getting started and TikTok is getting this distributed out to as many people as possible. If you haven't followed me, please do so. My followers have been blowing up. I put out a couple interesting videos recently that are getting a lot of attention, and I think everybody needs to be paying attention. And we're not talking about problems here really today. We're really talking about if there's enough Americans that really want to fight for the Constitution, for the rule of law, for freedom and liberty. Like what the entire country is based on, of fighting for freedom and liberty, right? The entire culture is supposed to be based on that. So the question becomes, it doesn't matter if you're MAGA or liberal or anything in between, are we going to take our representation and bring it back to the people? Or are we just going to sit idly by and do nothing? It's really simple. People think that you can't do anything. That's actually BS. You absolutely could do something. And that's why I try and do this every day, try and put in the work to let people know, to try and inspire them to realize we can actually do something. It's going to take a, pretty big effort, not in terms of actually physical effort. You don't have to do much at all. All you have to do is support. You can't just keep arguing about issues like everybody, all the right-wing influencers do and all the left-wing influencers do. All everybody does is argue. I don't see any people proposing, or very few people, individuals proposing solutions to the problems that we have. And that's why, as someone in the right time of my life, that I decided I have a solution. If I can rally enough people together, then we can actually solve these issues. So today's topic, and I'm welcome to have people joining as guests. You can hit the button on the bottom, join as a guest, request to join, and let me know, because we all know the Constitution is under attack by those who swore an oath to defend it. Like, seriously, that's what if you read the oath, it's unbelievable. You can swear an oath to defend it, and then you don't defend it, and you actually are trying to tear it down, and yet nothing happens. Like, there is nothing. Oh, thanks for all the flags. That's really cool, I guess. United States of Confusion. If you're just going to keep reposting the same thing, please don't do that. I need to be able to read the comments, and I don't want to have to ban people unless it's truly necessary. I say unity is our superpower, Barbara. I agree. Absolutely. And thanks for joining the show, Barbara. 50% of my audience is women, which is really awesome. And the other 50% is men. So it's a really nice reflection in terms of gender across the country. So that's awesome. I love to have as many women joining as possible. And even Gen Z, I'd love to have a lot of Gen Z people here as well, because that generation, the youngest generation that can currently vote, is really important if we want to take our country back, if they want to take their country back and bring representation back to them so that they actually have a fighting chance. What's up, May? Gen Z here. I always say it. I truly believe Gen Z is the most important generation. I think that's also why they're being manipulated the most by a lot of right-wing and left-wing influences. And it's basically to divide and conquer. It's to confuse you. You're growing up in this incredible world of information, or overwhelmingly information, and you don't know what to believe and what not to believe. And it really comes down to really simple stuff. Another Gen Xer, welcome, Mama C. What really is important, what it comes down to, all of relationships, whether they're political relationships or your spouses or your friends or your relationships, whatever it is, it comes down to one thing: trust, integrity, character, these things. So when you're voting in elections and you're voting or looking at, or actually just listening to influencers on the internet, all you have to do is judge their moral integrity and their character. Do they seem truthful? Are they trustworthy? Or do they spread hate? And if they don't, or if they're not trustworthy and they're immoral, don't follow them. Don't give them the time of day. Relationships are really, really simple. If you want to have decency in your life and you want to have a good life, stay away from the toxic forces. And those toxic forces are all over social media. We know that. We know that with the right-wing propaganda. We know that with regular media. We know that in social media. We know that with so many different mouthpieces, if you want to call them that. They're extreme on the left and the right. I also point to people like Dean Withers and Parker and other people who just are trying to debate Trump voters. They're not doing anything to solve a problem. All they're doing is grifting off of division and getting people to divide each other. They're not doing anything. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm trying to get people together to realize that we're all being divided, and that if there are 50 million people that wanted to do something different, you could. And that's the plan right there. And you can find the link to the plan underneath my profile. There's a bunch of links. There's one singular Linktree link, and then it opens up to all the potential links of what I'm trying to do. But the most important one is a citizens plan to bring representation back to the people. And I please ask you to read that. And then you'll understand where I stand and what I'm trying to do. And of course, I need to become relevant enough. So I need you to follow and sub on the other platform where I'm also broadcasting live right now as well on YT. So follow, sub, and watch my videos. If you want to know who I am, just watch the 2 or 3 of my top videos, the pin videos or the 2 most popular videos that are going pretty semi-viral right now. Then you'll understand what I represent and what I would like to do, but I can't do it without people's support. So obviously today's topic is the Constitution is under attack by those who swore an oath to defend it. And the question is, are we going to stand by and fight? Stand by, or are we going to fight for freedom, liberty, self-rule, and the rule of law? So let's discuss it. So that's my thoughts. If anyone wants to jump into the box and have a discussion about this, so you might be thinking, what am I referring to? Well, I'm going to go to the biggest topic of the day, not of the day, of the week, is what's happening with, not of the week, even the month, is what's happening with the government shutdown. Thanks for the fan clubs and those gifts. That's awesome. Thank you, Lindsay. And thank you, Beverly. Thanks for those. But what's really happening with the government shutdown, I want to talk about it again. So people, if you haven't watched my video on it, that the government shutdown is not like any other government shutdown we have in the past. We have a guy named Russ Vought, who's the director of the OMB and is the Project 2025 co-author for Donald Trump and Project 2025. He runs the OMB office, which is responsible for sending out the money that Congress approves. If you've noticed, Trump doesn't want to, he's not making any big deal about the government being shut down, right? He's not trying to bring it back together. He's basically telling Mike Johnson to keep the Republicans, keep Congress out of session. Don't bring them back into office. It's very clear he's reveling in the government's dysfunction, and he's not trying to solve the problem, right? He's just sitting idly by. And you might ask, why? So a parasite, but neither is the left. Let me explain this. So you think the left, some people are blaming the left as well. You have to understand. So it went to the Senate where the left has to agree to this CR bill. The left has said they're there, but they will not approve it because they want the healthcare subsidies to be extended. So it has to come back to the House where they're supposed to negotiate. And a lot of Republicans are asking for Congress to come back into session, but they're not allowing them to do so. Who's not? Mike Johnson. You can blame both here if you want. That's fine, but that's the point. I'm going to get to that. That's why this is what's going to happen. You're going to recognize why you're blaming both and why you're wrong, because it's something more nefarious or more sinister that's happening. It's Mike Johnson is being told by Russ Vought, Trump, J.D. Vance, and others to keep the government shut down. They want to create as much harm as possible to American society. And they want you to believe that Congress can no longer function, that they can no longer negotiate, and they can no longer come to a compromise. And you might ask why? Well, it's really simple. And again, most Republican Congress people don't know this as well, and neither do many Democrats. And my prediction, or what I believe is happening, but it's not really a belief, it's pretty much what Project 2025 outlines, is that at some point, there's going to be so much dysfunction that American public is going to blame both parties. And then Donald Trump is going to declare emergency powers of some kind, an insurrection act or emergency powers, and he's then going to claim that Congress can no longer fulfill their duty of the power of the purse, meaning controlling spending and controlling the budget. And they are then going to assume power of that. And they're going to use the OMB office and Russ vote. They're going to convince Americans that Congress is failing, it can no longer function, and we need to take it over. That, my friends, is dictatorship. When this is an explicit check and balance on the authority of the president. And this is a consolidation of powers that the president and Russ vote is trying to accomplish. The checks and balance in the Constitution, the founding fathers made it very clear that in order to prevent one party or one branch of government, in this case the executive branch and the president, from having too much power, that Congress and its representatives of all of us, no matter how you feel about our representation, that's irrelevant at this point, Congress has to control the spending and the budget. It is the rule of law in the Constitution, and Trump is trying to break that. And this is not a hunch. The Curtis Yarvin, Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance, Russ Vought, and Donald Trump have all said that they would like the executive branch to have as much power as possible. They believe they should have a CEO, which is really a corporate monarchy, or an authoritarian, some versions of these things, to control all of government. They want the executive branch to consolidate powers. And this is what's happening with this shutdown. They are using it. Now, whether it happens in this particular shutdown, you can't guarantee that. But make no mistake about it, this is nothing but a ploy to cause incredible amount of harm, because this is a really easy compromise, people. A really easy compromise for Congress to come back into session to extend the health care credits that the Democrats are demanding and that most Republicans in rural areas of America want and need. They need to have health care subsidies from the Affordable Care Act to make sure their health insurance doesn't go up by 8 or 10 times the amount of money. So this is not an unpopular thing. And the Democrats are demanding that to happen. But the Republicans, so if you're thinking who to blame, the Republicans have refused to negotiate with the Democrats on these very small couple of items. And the Democrats have basically said, F you. If you're not going to do even any sort of negotiation with us, then we're not going to do it either. This is the problem with our politics, of course. Congress is supposed to compromise. That is our responsibility of Congress. Compromise is winning. It is not losing. So if you're red or blue and you don't believe compromise is winning, take your head out of your ass. We're all Americans. Some people live in cities. Some people live in rural areas. But we all need things. We all need our government to function properly. And it's a responsibility for them to compromise. So you might be blaming Congress. No, blame Mike Johnson for being a little weasel and a little wuss and just following along with what Trump says. They have the constitutional responsibility, Congress, to be a check and balance on the executive branch. And this is exactly what George Washington warned us against at the end of his term. When he left, his farewell address said he was afraid that if parties were to form, the loyalty to the party would be more than the loyalty to the nation. This was 240 years ago, people, that he said this. A very smart man that knew what would happen when parties became too strong and too powerful, that they would oppose each other at all costs and they wouldn't negotiate. And this is what's happening in our politics today. And you can blame these sinister forces, these religious fascists of Russ Vought, Stephen Miller, and others, and a cabal of corporate dictators, the Peter Thiels, the J.D. Vances. They have mentioned very clearly, following Curtis Yarvin's dark enlightenment philosophy, that they believe that democracy is failed and self-rule needs to go away. So I hope you guys understood that. We have a guest that wants to join. It's Crazy Veggies. You're going to be up first. So let's talk about this. I hope people stick around and understand the sinister that's happening here. Our Constitution is clearly under attack. If you don't think so, you also heard that the 22nd Amendment, where your president can only serve 2 terms, that Steve Bannon talking about that Trump is going to try and serve a 3rd term. You heard Trump talk about the freedom of speech is no longer a thing, even though he hasn't, he's using words, of course, to say that freedom of speech is not guaranteed, and many other aspects. So, Crazy Veggies, how are you today? Welcome Sunday. Crazy Veggies, can you hear me? If you guys can let me know in the comments, can anyone else hear Crazy Veggies? Because it might be on my end. I can't hear him. All right, let me unplug. No, you guys can't hear him either. Okay, I can't hear him. I can't hear him at all. His volume is all the way up, but I'm not hearing anything. Let me unplug. So let me unplug and plug back in, and let's see if we get something now. All right, I think you're there. Crazy Veggies. No, I can't hear him loud enough. It's just some background noise. So, okay, I'm going to bump him. All right, so if anyone wants to join and talk about this, this is mostly focused around, obviously, that our Constitution is under attack. Now, I want to know if you can't hear me, Tabitha, you can't hear me. Oh, welcome, Tabitha. Can anyone hear me now? Can you guys confirm that if you can hear me again? Tabitha, maybe I need you to help moderate. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Tabitha, and thanks for being here. It's awesome to see you here. Thanks for being so kind on Josh's live as well. All right, awesome. So everybody can hear me. So the Constitution is under attack by those who took an oath. Think about how disgusting it is. People swear an oath to defend the Constitution, and then all they do is try and tear it down. What's the word? Deliberately. They're trying to tear it down deliberately. And in this case, don't think it's just Trump. It's not just Trump. Trump is being manipulated. He's just a tool behind what's really happening behind the scenes. It's really people like Russ Vought, Peter Thiel, and Stephen Miller. I'd put those three at the top. And then you have a lot of very powerful billionaire influences behind them, like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, and even foreign governments, of course, foreign governments, foreign agents, etc. Welcome, Mr. Global. How are you today?
I'm doing well, TK.
All right, thanks for joining.
You bet. I heard you may have some technical difficulties, so I just wanted to pop in and try to help facilitate. So,
Cool, awesome. I don't know if it was actually a technical difficulty or we just couldn't hear the last guest because they weren't speaking loud enough. Did you hear them?
yeah, I did. I think he was on a phone call.
Okay.
It sounded like he was on a phone call, so.
Okay, awesome. So does anyone else want to join and have a discussion? If so, hit the request button, join, and let's talk about this. We can talk about the details of Russ Vought, the director of the OMB, and how they are trying, or how Trump, they're using the government shutdown as a way to cripple Congress, right? They're trying to cripple Congress and take away, and maybe take away their power, at least their power of the purse. So that's let me see. I thought Mr. Global tell us about the oil industry. Is that something to do with your username? All right. It's the people to blame for being brainwashed. I don't think so, Rebel. You can. People are busy. People have jobs. They have families. They may not be that familiar with civics and politics. And yes, democracy is not a spectator sport. It's supposed to be a participation sport. But this is nothing new. There's society not paying attention to possible authoritarianism or fascism. You had it all over the world in every culture. You've had these powers that rise up, and society doesn't do anything about it. So you can blame society, but that's normal. That's not abnormal. Let's say that. And Pete, quit saying we are a democracy. So come on, tell me why we're not a democracy, Pete. We are a representative democracy technically. So let me be very clear. We are a representative democracy, technically, the Constitution and a constitutional republic. That's what we are technically. Now, I will agree with you if you suggest that we're not functioning as a democracy or barely functioning as a democracy. But if you're someone who thinks that we're not a democracy, then you don't understand your history. We are absolutely a democracy by design. Again, not functioning as one. We're functioning more as a plutocracy or a corporatocracy. But we are certainly a democracy by design. And if you think you can argue that fact, come on here and tell me why you don't think we're a democracy. And even if you don't think we're one at the moment, functioning as one, we should be trying to get our power back and bring representation back to the people. So I'm not going to quit saying we're a democracy because technically we are. But I also make it very clear that I don't believe we're actually functioning as certainly a very viable one. There it is, Mr. Global, Tom Williams. We're a republic.
But
Uh,
this comes up so often. I'm looking up what the difference between a democracy and a constitutional republic is, and I've heard it once before.
a republic doesn't have to be a democracy. All constitutional republics are democracies. So a republic can be like a monarchy. It could be a Roman Empire. Before the Roman Empire, there was the Roman Republic, where they had some representation, but they were not democracies. So Tom Williams, you've been manipulated from talking points. I don't know what right-wing, most likely right-wing propaganda you've listened to, where people saying that same thing. We're not a democracy. We're a republic. No, you are wrong.
It's semantics.
100% wrong. Yeah, it's just they take out the word constitutional, because once we are a constitutional republic, and all constitutional republics are representative democracies. And I'm assuming Tom would probably say next, well, it doesn't say democracy in the Constitution. Well, it doesn't say Bible in the scriptures, and your birth certificate doesn't say human. I need to come up probably with some more analogies, but I think those two hit home pretty well. So, but I'd like to expand if you guys have other analogies I could use other than your birth certificate that doesn't say you're a human, let me know. So it is not a pure form of democracy. XO Serena. Well, what do you mean by pure form? If you mean probably the purest form, you're probably referring to direct democracy like Switzerland has. That's a valid argument. You could say we're not a pure democracy, because I think most people would think a direct democracy is a pure democracy where every individual in its society votes on every single issue. In that case, you're right. But you can't really have a direct democracy with 370 million people in a country as big as ours. Direct democracies function very slowly. They are very inefficient, but they are fair if people are actually voting on the topics. So the founding fathers considered this. They considered all forms of government, and there's flaws with every single one of them, but they landed on a constitutional republic and a representative democracy because they thought, and I think they were very much right, that it was the best form of government, because we still had a lot of morality issues back in the 1700s and 1800s regarding slavery and women not voting and lots of other things. So a representative democracy was allowed to where you vote for representation, and those, if you want to call them professionals, but I use that term very loosely, those people, statesmen, civic servants, right? Statesmen or civic servants, they go to office and they deal with the everyday work, the hard work of understanding issues and making legislation and so forth. So we're not a pure form in terms of direct democracy, but we're technically an outstanding representative democracy. You could clearly argue we're one of the best democracies that the world has ever seen, not functioning, but by design, it's pretty darn excellent. Democracy always ends up in autocracy. Well, you can say that about everything. Every form of government ends up being something else eventually. It's just up to you whether you want to keep a democracy. So democracy always ends up in autocracy? Maybe, but that doesn't have to be now. It's only if the people allow it to. Communism always fails as well. So, you give something enough time and it will always change. I'm telling you, freaking fight for it. Don't just say, oh, it's time, it's been there long enough and it's going to change to something else. Bullshit. It's only going to change to something else if we allow it to change to something else. So my message to Americans who if you believe in liberty and freedom and hard work and the rule of law and other American values, don't sit on your ass, fight for it. Because if you go to autocracy, your life's not going to be better. It's going to consistently get worse. And more importantly, your future generations of your kids and so forth, they're not going to have the same opportunities that you had in a free country. SCOTUS let corporations act as people. Absolutely, Deb. I'm going to do another video on that this week about corporations are not people and money should not be speech, as SCOTUS, was manipulated into ruling, like the absurdity of that ruling. And that's what I stand on this channel. So those of you that don't know, I am all for, if you want to take representation back to the people, we have to have a 28th and 29th Amendment. The 28th Amendment has to say that you need to eliminate all corruption from the political system, meaning ban all corporate special interest money, all special interest money from foreign interests, foreign agents, from religious fascists, and everyone else. The corruption needs to go away. Money in politics needs to go away. And all elections need to be publicly funded only by individuals, meaning human beings. And there needs to be a cap on how much, just like it used to be with more campaign finance restrictions. And of course, that has gone away. And that's been manipulated to go away because of all the gifts and money given to the Supreme Court that made them rule in that favor. It's the same thing. Corruption is the reason we're here. And if people want to eliminate that corruption, we can do that with the 28th Amendment. And then the 29th Amendment means that being a politician cannot be a career. It needs to be a temporary civic service. You go in, you serve your time, you go home. Very simple. No careers for politicians. Those two things will solve the vast majority of every other problem we have in the United States. Get rid of the corruption, get rid of the career politicians, make sure you put decent people in office that actually serve the people, and every other issue will get solved. And you might ask, that's impossible. It's not impossible. It's difficult, but all it requires is enough people to do it. Again, thanks to Tabitha for being here. I love seeing you here. And I have seen you in the past, but you know what? I actually haven't just connected the dots between Josh's show and this one. So my apologies for that. I think I've seen you here in the past a lot of times for whatever reason, because I'm busy speaking and, I can't multitask that well, read comments and speak. I didn't notice you. So thanks for being here. Okay, search general strike now. That is your only option at this point. Someone's still got to organize a general strike, and it's got to be really well organized by an individual, not some sort of, yeah, thanks, Tabitha. Yeah, I know you have been, I don't know, sometimes I'm a little clueless. Apologies. Trump is trying to end POTUS term limits. Yes, he is. 22nd Amendment is going to be under attack soon. The amount of attacks that are happening by this administration, again, not just Trump. It's really Trump just being manipulated to do things for the interest of these corporate dictators and these religious fascists. So we pay for the elected. Don't worry about the current system is working as intended and crumbling. Oh, Vox. Okay, so Vox, let's just go away. So I guess you are a fan of either communism or fascism or something else. That's right, people. So Vox Alterna thinks that we should just lay down, let it happen. Bye-bye. It's working as intended and it's crumbling. So I don't know, but I don't work in that manner. I think it's a responsibility of any democracy to fight for our liberty and our freedom. And if we don't, then it will, you're right, it will happen and it will continue to happen. So if you get 50 million people that don't want it to happen, or even a lot less, it won't happen. All right, so does anyone else want to join and talk about this topic? The Constitution is under attack by those who swore an oath to defend it. Are we going to stand by, or are we going to fight for freedom, liberty, self-rule, and the rule of law? You're welcome to come on and discuss it. I do have rules of discussion, and they are, if you're going to come on here and basically it's really simple. If you're an advocate or you want to see the United States as a representative democracy to succeed, you're welcome to come on and talk about it. If you are someone who's an ethist, I don't even know if I should be saying that word. Tabitha would probably know. Should I even be using the word fascist? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's a form of government, but sometimes you just don't even know what to say, what you can and what you can't say. So anyway, so if you're someone who is for communism or fascism or authoritarianism, you're not really welcome here. You're not really welcome to talk about it, because I view you pretty much as a traitor, or maybe even a domestic tea of the country, someone that doesn't care about freedom, liberty, and self-rule. Was that funny?
Who, me?
Yeah, did you laugh?
No, I had something, I was getting clear in my throat. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Tabitha says, I'm not sure if Josh always says the Fist word, but it's just a choice. Yeah. So I've said it a lot and I haven't gotten restricted or banned for it. So I'm just going to continue to say it. So for those of you that don't understand the difference between fascism and communism, it's really simple. You got two sides of the spectrum, farthest way you can get. I can't show you on the screen because if you have on the right side, the farthest you can get is fascism. That is extreme fascism, where everybody, it's very religious based typically, and it's a lot of discrimination against any minority. And that's of course what you had with, the Germany in World War II. The other side, total other side, is communism. So two ends of the seesaw, communism and fascism, right? So if we allow, democracy is sort of right in the middle. It's a teeter-totter. And it's like two little kids trying to balance themselves on the teeter-totter. That's where democracy is supposed to live. It's always a compromise, back and forth, teetering a little bit. But if one side gets too powerful, it will usually fall towards authoritarianism, which is towards this direction, or autocracy, or theocracy, or fascism. So the more it gets weighted, the more you end up towards fascism. If you go the other way and you get too liberal and things get out of hand and you sort of don't believe in capitalism, you end up getting communism. So it's really simple. A lot of people think that communism and fascism are one and the same. They actually function, or the outcomes are somewhat similar to those minorities, but they're very different forms of government. And democracy, what we should always be fighting for, is just like those two little kids on a seesaw that are trying to balance themselves out and making sure they're staying in the air. And I'm not talking about when they're on each ends and they're supposed to be seesawing. That's not how good government should work. You should be working that they're just sort of balancing themselves and they're playing a game to stay balanced. That's what that seesaw analogy is supposed to represent. What's up, Red Iron Ranch? Love seeing you here as well. There's certain usernames that just really stick out to me. Red Iron Ranch, yours is one of them. All right, I'm going to answer some questions in the comments, and obviously we have a guest waiting to join as well. Paula, you're going to join in just a moment. Actually, I'm going to have you join now, and then we're going to see, do you think the right in Congress is acting out of fear of Trump truly wants to kill democracy? I think the right in Congress, a lot of the right in Congress don't truly understand. They're just trying to survive as career politicians. I don't think many of the right in Congress actually understand how nefarious Project 2025 is. Some do, some don't. But I don't think they also understand what they're trying to do with this government shutdown. So yes, they're acting out of fear, because if they go against Trump, then Trump is going to belittle them and MAGA is going to come after them potentially. And they're afraid, that's for sure. Hi, Paula, how are you?
Hey, I'm really good. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Okay,
I'm all ready for it.
excellent. Yeah.
Hey, I just found your live, and I don't understand how come it took me that long. It's quite incredible when you think about it. I've been on TikTok since March. And I don't know how I just found you.
Well, I haven't been on that long either. I've been here since, well, on my lives, I've only been doing lives for about a month and a half. And TikTok
Okay.
is a little slow in disseminating things, but the channel is growing wonderfully fast, which is, I'm just so appreciative to everybody that apparently the message is resonating. So anyway, but go ahead.
I agree. I agree. I think you were making some comments earlier about, I guess I would paraphrase that. Where do we go from here? What is our end goal? And I think our economy is a mixed economy of capitalism and a little bit of socialism mixed in. But I think the problem mostly is when we are socializing corporate losses. You know, like we're all bearing that burden. We're sitting on $37 trillion of debt.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure they're expecting regular Americans to pay for that. And I don't know how we can do that. We don't get paid enough. We don't get paid enough for shit.
Well, they don't care. They don't give a shit. They're trying to exploit. That's what capitalism does in general. So if you have completely unregulated capitalism, let's take the government out of it just for a moment. If you have completely unregulated capitalism, that's what it will do. It will bury the poor. It will bury the land. So they will exploit the land. They will exploit the consumer for every last cent. And that's by design. And that's not, use these words carefully, evil. That is how capitalism works if it's unregulated. It's just what it's meant to do.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. Make as much money as possible. When you have a government in a capitalistic society with a government's job is to protect the people and make sure that there's the right balance of regulations so that capitalism can't run unchecked.
And I feel like that's where we are. I feel like corporatocracy is running unchecked. And I also believe that they've captured Congress. They've captured all elective offices, or most of them.
Yes.
So how do we?
You could argue on both parties. I'm not going to say every individual in Congress, because there are some individuals that don't take money from special interest groups. There are a few. But for the most part, both parties take an enormous amount of funding from special interest groups. Not all the same special interest groups, but some of them. Most of the corporations give to both parties. But then when it
Yes.
comes to the religious groups, they don't give to both parties. When it comes to George Soros, he just gives to the left. When it comes to the Adelson family and many other people like Elon Musk, they only give to the right. But at the end of the day, both parties have obviously an incredible amount of corruption in both parties.
I agree.
So that's obviously what happens. And that's why they don't pay their fair share of taxes. So they get subsidies. You take the oil and gas industry, they get subsidies up front. So they get the leases to drill oil or to dig out minerals, and they get subsidies and tax breaks for these things. Then they create sometimes environmental disasters, and then they don't even have to clean them up entirely. And then at the end, when they make all the money, they don't even pay their fair share of taxes, right? So they are completely manipulating the system of government in order to balance it completely in their favor.
I agree. I feel like there's got to be. I mean, it's almost like we need an American Spring in a sense that
Yeah.
we, the American people, need to assert their control over our own government in both parties. It seems that we don't have any anymore. I feel like they don't have to even represent us anymore.
That's right. They don't. Because your boss is the people that pay you, right? And they pay you to get elected. So we don't pay most politicians to get elected anymore. So they have to answer to the people that pay them. Since the 1960s or 70s, that's where things started to turn around, right? So because throughout the 200 years up until that point, the people and democracy will continue to evolve and be more in favor of representation of the people. But make no mistake, I'm not saying corporations haven't had or rich people haven't had an outsized influence. But starting around the 1980s through now, you've had a complete sort of takeover of our political legislation, from reducing taxes from wealthy individuals to corporations to removing restrictions and obviously protections on the consumer, and of course the Supreme Court removing campaign finance restrictions, the fairness doctrine being removed from media, where very few people can own most of the media. And then, of course, as Billy mentions, you had Citizens United. So over the past 40 years, there just hasn't been one thing. There's been dozens and dozens of things that rich people and rich corporations and foreign governments have manipulated our government and even our courts to take power away from us.
Yeah, there was a time for some of the younger people that watch you. There was a time when labor was taxed less than capital. And since the 80s, that has completely flipped, where capital is not taxed in the way that labor is. And I feel like that's created an unfair table for everybody else.
Yeah, you can just go.
But so how do we fix it?
Well, you mentioned, let me give you something, since you haven't heard my live before, you probably haven't heard me mention this because most people don't know it. The corporations used to pay 30% of all tax revenue generated for the U.S. government. So we take in $5 trillion a year, roughly, and only 8 to 10% of that in any given year comes from corporations. Back in the 1960s, that used to be 30%. And when it came to individual taxes for the ultra wealthy, they used to pay up to 90% of taxes. So the progressive tax rate was much higher. So if you put those back into place, let's say you just didn't change the tax laws since the 1960s, and you talked about the amount of national debt. Those, because of the changes in laws, I still call it stealing. So that amount of 22% and ultra wealthy not paying is taking away an additional $2.7 to $3.2 trillion away from the government. So you'd go from $5 trillion a year to, let's just say, $7.5 trillion a year. It could be as much as $8 trillion a year. So they're basically stealing $3 trillion a year from our system. That money, if you think about it, you could, if you wanted to, that could pay down the entire national debt in 13 years. Like if they were just paying their fair share of taxes, if you wanted to, I wouldn't even suggest that's a good idea. But just as one example, the national debt is not a hard problem to solve. It's an actually very easy problem to solve over time if you have the right fair taxation.
I agree completely with you. The Rand Corporation estimated that something along the lines of $12 trillion has been taken from the working class, middle class Americans, and has gone up to the ultra wealthy. This is since the 80s, since the implementation of supply side economics. But I think we can sit here and talk about all the problems we're in, but I'm really interested in the solutions. And protest, demonstrate, organize, register people to vote, get out the vote, canvass. These are the prescriptions that we need to do. You need to talk to your people in your life. And we lost some of the working class off the Democratic vote last time. And it's quite remarkable when you think about unions voting for a Republican Party that is union busting. I, I don't understand how we lost those groups of people, but we have to get them back.
You know, even if you do get them back, here's my thing. I think the system is so broken now. So even if you go, let's say even the Democrats win the next time, I believe it's actually just a stay of execution for democracy because they're still corrupted, right? And neither party will go to the mat for like a 28th Amendment, which is what I was. So you're looking for a remedy.
Right.
Protests are awesome, blackouts, whatever you want to call it. If they could be big enough, I'm all for them. I'm not suggesting anyone should not do them. I think we absolutely should. If we could have a 10 million or 20 million or 30 million person protest on Washington and other cities, go absolutely. I just don't know in today's world if that's going to be enough. I think it has to be we have to have a united enemy because right now Republicans and Democrats are blue versus red. And if we continue to go blue versus red, I don't think there's any long-term solution. I think we need a common enemy and a common thing to oppose. And that common enemy has to be the manipulation of big money in our politics from foreign agents, foreign interests, foreign infiltrators, corporate special interests, these religious groups, and so forth. Like that has to be the common enemy. Because if you can't unite a large section of America, Republicans and Democrats, behind a common enemy, they'll keep playing us against each other. So just moving the pendulum back to blue, I think is great. I think it's a stay of execution because obviously the Constitution is being trampled on right now. I just don't know if it's actually the real remedy. It's just a Band-Aid. And I don't love that idea.
Yeah, but still, even to get to that end, we still have to get voters. We still have to get people registered. We got to get the electorate excited about, or at least start thinking about voting, because we can't do it without voting.
What generation are you?
I'm an Xer.
You're an Xer, so you remember 1992, right? Ross Perot,
I do.
Reform Party.
Yes, I do. EDS. Mm-hmm.
So do you remember how many people ended up voting for him?
I believe he got around 25%.
Yeah, something 20. It got 19 million votes, 20 million votes, and he was you remember he was probably polling at 39%. So he was he was winning the election as a Reform Party. But he pulled out, and obviously he started saying a lot of quacky things and started getting a little weird, and they pulled out of the election for 6 weeks. But I always go back to that point to show people that also as a common enemy, the common enemy or opponent needs to be both parties because both parties are taking in that kind of corruption. And I believe a 1992 repeat with a better group of people, not just one billionaire who's leading the ticket, is the real solution, like the ultimate solution. And I don't think it's in today's world, it's impossible. I think it's more possible today than ever if you can get the right message out there about opposing both parties. And but you have to first get 50 million people to first support it, or you have some sort of generational leader that truly steps up. Somebody that really captures the imagination of the country again, whether it's an Abraham Lincoln or it's a JFK or whatever it might be. So it's either one of those two things. We build a grassroots movement of 50 million people, and then we recruit an all new generation of politicians to replace people in both parties, or you hope that a generational leader steps up. That's how I view it, as like my dream solution. But I'm not suggesting like we shouldn't do what things that you're saying.
Well, I think we both want to get to the same end. I think we need a better, more representative government of the people than what we have right now. I mean, we have too many people homeless. We have too many people hungry. Our education system is failing. Don't even get me started on the roads around where I live. And I know that's a state and local issue primarily, but we have some serious problems. We have a bifurcated economic system. And I mean, we have a lot of problems. And I feel like this administration is exploiting those problems in a way that I didn't think possible.
Yeah, but
it goes even deeper than that, though.
Yeah, there's a root cause. There's a deeper root.
Well, I think these people are in the same lodges. They're in the same golf clubs. Their kids go to the same schools. It's either you're in the club or you're not. So in order to break that up, you've got to identify who those individuals are. I don't know, maybe you start voting for people that are more closely, like their income is more closely to the median income of your state or your area. You know, these people are just, they've rigged the game and they know what they're doing and
I
they're
think I
smart
may have
about it.
lost you guys. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Yep. Trump isn't in the club. That's true. Phoenix Evolving. Trump really isn't in the club. He's never been part of any club because everybody can't stand him, but they do leverage the shit out of him. He's just
They do,
leverage.
don't they?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
he has no friends. He has no relationships. Everything is transactional. There are literally no like morality to his relationships whatsoever.
Well, and maybe another time I'll come up and we can talk about all of his business opportunities he's had since he's been president.
Yep. Yep.
We should start paying attention to that too.
Well, let's go. Let's
Listen.
focus on the root cause. Thanks for joining, Paula.
Oh yeah, I loved meeting you guys. Have a good day and happy Halloween, everybody.
Thanks, Paula. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so we got Crazy Veggies is coming in back in. Let me answer. Tea Party was grassroots. Trump is a generational leader. Yeah, your username certainly makes your comment understandable. Mass confused.
Why don't they just get on their hands and knees and kiss his feet? You know what I mean? Just kiss his feet and let him and just have his way with you, you know?
They
It's
do.
just,
Here's their Caesarean figure. He's the god, right? Like they're not Americans.
How's it going?
What's up, Crazy Veggies? How are you?
I'm good. Sorry earlier I like went up and then you might not believe it, but I literally had two Mormons knock on my door right as soon as like I was able to join. So I was carried away with trying not to I guess have a bad interaction with them because I don't want to be judged, you know what I mean?
So you met two elders that were probably like 18 years old?
One was 20 and I don't know the other one. But yeah, I've had them out here before because they go to everyone's home, right? Unless you have, even I've heard that they'll go even if you have a no soliciting. But they're very tenacious. Not bad people in any kind of way, right? They're not a violent people. But the thing is I had to tell them that I told the last group not to come to my home, you know, and that they directly did not listen or tell anyone or abide by that,
Hey, man.
which is disrespectful.
God's
right?
telling them to knock on your door. They're going to do it.
Yeah,
they
and
need you. They need you.
No, they want me really bad. This is the problem being who I am as a person, right? Is that like I'm very good at what they do. I'll just put it that way. You know what I'm saying? Like I understand what they're doing. I understand why they're doing it. And I understand like how insidious it is. You know what I mean?
You know,
But I had to
you
give
could be
them-
an elder with your profile image there. You know, the white shirt and the black tie. I think you got there on your profile. I think you're an elder. You
I
might,
hope not.
you might want to change
I
that.
did.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. But that's the only reason I didn't get up. Yeah, it's because I had to give them a pep talk about how, like, you know. But yeah, anyway, not to take the conversation away from what you're talking about.
Billy, I see you and you're up next. So just hang tight for a minute, Billy. All right. So Crazy Veggies, where'd you jump in and what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm looking at what's happening and it's getting to be kind of a fear, you know, that they're really going to do what I think they might do and what everybody keeps saying they're trying to do, which is take over the government. And essentially, I hate to say it, but starve children. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What did he say yesterday about Mike Johnson? So for people not familiar, yesterday he said basically I'm the Speaker of the House and I'm the President. Didn't he say something to that effect?
I did not hear that.
Yeah. So he was literally right next to Mike Johnson when he said it. He's like, well, I'm basically the Speaker and I'm the President, with Mike Johnson standing right next to him.
That dude.
Yeah, that's a dictator move right there.
Yeah, that's
All right.
that's imposing his
Whatever.
will, right? You know, that's like, hey, you're a little pissant. I'm going to tell you to your face that I control your House of Representatives, not you, and that's why you got the government shut down because I told you to shut it down. So you just stand right behind me, you little bee, and play good boy.
Yeah. He's waking up the giant. It's coming. If that's what he wants, then that's what he's gonna get. If that's the fight they want, then that's what they're gonna get.
I don't.
Yeah, my fear is gonna get worse, and people are gonna start doing what they're saying they're gonna do, which is start looting and, you know, stuff from the grocery if they cut the.
Well, you know what ICE is, right? ICE is. I've seen that ICE is clearly, You know, some people in my comments often say, I hope the military stands up and does something. Well, they're not going to do anything. But he also has basically a private security force at this point, and that's ICE. You know, I think it's $180 million budget, which is almost 20% of the entire military budget a year that goes to ICE. Think about that amount of money going to basically like a private executive army. That's what it is. And that's what they're going to use if things get out of hand. They won't even have to call the military. They got $180 million to use on their private police force.
That is too scary. Yeah, I mean, if they start targeting like regular citizens, that are just having a hard time and like whatever, like, and you know what I mean? Like if they start amping it up, I don't know how it doesn't turn into like a, mass sort of like protest again. Like, I mean, I know it already happened, but this is just getting to the point where I think people are either willfully ignorant, I guess, of what's happening, or they simply don't want to sacrifice what they've made in their life, and they have their jobs, they have their families, etc., right? But the core issue isn't that. It's like, whatever, like, it's just, come on, man. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, this is all on purpose. It's all on purpose. They've set it up this way intentionally. They've got us working 40 hours a week, can't pay our health insurance, can barely afford food. The majority of people are
Well,
constantly scared of losing their assets or losing a place to live. You create a group of people that will fall in line because they literally have no other option.
well, if you were
So
following someone's playbook, so you're Project 2025, whose playbook do you think would you follow that has shown how to take a relative, not free society, it wasn't entirely free, but a society moving towards freedom, and then you would quash that freedom and quash all protests? Like, who do you follow? What's the roadmap? I mean, it's one of the top leaders in the world. So just a hint. Who do you think it is?
I mean, you talking about Bibi,
It's-
or are you talking about Putin?
Yeah, I'm talking about Putin in this case. Yeah.
Oh, well then, yeah.
Yeah. It's Putin,
Another
right?
thing.
So you take over the court, you flood the courts with loyalists. You take over the media. In this case, they did it with state media. In the American way, they did it with friends, billionaires that took over media. So, you have obviously certain people that are taking over this platform. You have somebody that's right-leaning that owns Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp. And if you look at most social media, and even many in the most popular traditional medias, they're owned by loyalists at this point. So while it's not officially state media, it's loyalist media. And then next, you have security forces, like you had the FSB in Russia, and they use that to make sure that protests don't get out of hand. So this playbook is a playbook that has worked really well for Russia to remove all political opposition and make sure that protests don't get out of hand. So Project 2025, when you look at it, it takes a tremendous amount of the strategy right from Putin's playbook.
Yeah, I agree. I think it works, and that's what they're big on, right? Is they're big on what works. Kind of how like an abusive father knows what works with his kids,
Yeah.
That doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it beneficial or positive, right? But it works, right? That's their motto, and that comes from strictly Old Testament ideology. Um, and that's the problem, I would believe, is it comes from this eye for an eye kind of like submission of all those who dissent type of mentality, and that's very shameful on all of them.
Yep. I'm going to invite another guest in as well, see if we can handle. I'm sure everyone here knows the game. What's up, Billy?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Billy? Can you tell me what political part of the spectrum you're on and what generation you're at?
I'm a Gen Xer, and I would say right in the middle,
Okay. And Crazy
but
Veggies,
leaning
what were you?
left.
Were you like a late millennial, early millennial, late Gen Z?
71.
Yeah. And Crazy Veggies?
I'm 30. Yeah, I'm 32, so I'm like a zennial
I'm
or
I'm
something.
54.
Okay, cool. All right. So what's up, Billy? Welcome to the show. What are your thoughts?
Can I quickly just say that I come from a very large family, Mormon family, and um, my father had paid over $1 million to the church over the course of 50 years. And the only reason why I had elders in my yard was because my mom knows the mission president, and they came out to help me. But just they're all just kids. When you're talking Mormons, they're 18-year-old kids that have had, you know, it's they're just programmed.
Oh
And
yeah.
I just want to give
Indoctrinated.
that a quick plug. There's plenty of I'd like to talk about. I am frightened. We need to come together quickly and find that one real that person that we can get behind and protect that person, because as soon as we come up with someone that is working great for maybe a presidential candidate, I am afraid that he will just take care of that issue.
Yep. That's why I think you have to get organic movement first with 50 million people, because the top of the person can always be replaced. But if you get a movement going, let's take Occupy Wall Street, just as an example. If that was obviously a specific thing that they were trying to do, but if you had a movement like Occupy Wall Street that was organized, more organized, and in this case, it's the plan that I put forth here. And then over time, you'll end up figuring out who those possible elected representatives are. But if you had 50 million people first that supported, and I always say a 28th and 29th Amendment, like 28th Amendment, get rid of all money out of politics. Corporations are not people. Elections need to be for the people, by the people. And then 29th Amendment, being a politician can only be a temporary public service. Like if that's the thing that we want to drive to, that's the goal. It's not talking about immigration. It's not talking about abortion or gun rights or any other issue. It's just talking about how to clean up government, like really bring government back to representation to the people. If that's the common mission, then you have to have 50 million people to do it first. That's always what I think that we have to do at this point.
I agree, TK. I think right now, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know however you want to view it. I think it's a little too early to tell. I think we need to let it play out a little bit further to see how far they're willing to take it. But I think maybe in the interim or in the meantime, people need to start getting into their communities and getting in touch with, different groups that are going to support them if they can't afford food, if they're getting off of SNAP benefits. The worst thing that can happen is for everybody to just start doing this anarchy type thing, because that just plays into their playbook even more. So,
I think
anyways,
Americans need to become uncomfortable, and they're not willing. I just wanted to throw that in there. I'm sorry for interrupting them.
No, not
you're
at all.
good. They need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Or I just need to wake up a little and just realize, don't stop being divided by issues that are less important than what really matters. Like if they figured out the hope, like they saw a light of hope, a ray of hope. Let's say we had 1 million people just starting off. Once you have a little bit of a wave going towards something, then I think that wave would grow faster. So I think the objective is always to get to 1 million people that want to rally behind, as I say, basically one thing, even though it's two things, but I'm going to always lump it into one thing. Like just one common message that you can drill home constantly. You get to 1 million people, then that million will turn into 5 million, into 10 million. And once you get bigger than that, then you can really start taking transformational actions. But without that singular identity, if you want to call it, then everything else gets muddy. Like everybody starts fighting, it should be this, it should be that. Like the Democrats right now think it should be human rights. It should be lean on human rights and we need to fix human rights. That's great, but that's not the message that seems to appeal to most people on the right. So I don't think that's going to work. And it has to be something that brings in a segment of the right with the center and with people from the left. Then you actually can do something. Because if you
and that
continue to be divided, nothing really is going to change.
And then the issue right now might be the healthcare thing. That might be the thing that pops up as maybe both sides can rally behind the fact that everything is going to go up by double, 114% for some people, to where it becomes unaffordable, and it already is. I mean, I think healthcare in general is kind of a scam, but
Yeah, it's for profit. It makes no sense. If there are people on the right that are listening, And you think healthcare is a liberal concept. It's so ridiculous to think that way because it is a complete conflict of interest that you have for-profit healthcare. Sorry, you got some noise in the background. So it's a complete conflict of interest. For-profit healthcare. It means healthcare industries only care about making money. And then it's their best interest to keep everybody a little bit sick or a little bit addicted. That's how they make the most money. That's how healthcare makes the most money. Instead, it should be that the government, on the other hand, doesn't want to keep its society unhealthy. The government wants to keep its society very healthy because then if you're healthy, you're more productive. And when you're more productive, you're paying more taxes. So there is an inherent no conflict of interest. It's completely aligned. When government wants your society healthy, your society will always be better off. And this shouldn't be a left versus right issue. This one is so ridiculous. That's why our entire lives, all of us would be healthier, better off, more productive. And that means our society is better off and more productive. And that's why, when it comes to healthcare, like you said, Mr. Global, I think ideally you would want it to be something like that. But I don't know if you can convince people that that's the mission. That's the mission. Mass Confused says healthcare is a non-issue. Get a job that offers it. Oh, give me a break. Get a job that offers. So corporate healthcare is your solution. It's so ridiculous. It's a terrible system. That means every time you switch jobs, you have to change healthcare. It's silly. You don't have to change the healthcare system. You just have to change who's paying for it. Meaning instead of your company paying for it or you're paying for it, just have the government pay for you with your taxes. The hospitals don't have to change. The doctors don't have to change. The companies don't have to change. You just who's paying for the healthcare. So
I think that's a bot, TK, because he has 0 followers and he's following one. Mass
interesting.
Confused.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. It probably is. There's a lot of bots on TikTok that just comment hate stuff.
Hey, it
divide
allows me to
people.
get my word out, even if there's somebody else listening to it that probably has the same
I'm
feeling.
I'm self-employed. I haven't had insurance since I was 26 when I got off of my mother's insurance plan.
Right.
So, and
Exactly.
because it's too expensive, and I don't go to the doctor enough to justify paying monthly, plus having to have a deductible, and then your fees when you walk in the door, plus then they send you a bill after. So it just it's that's a topic that's really kind of complicated, but it's really not. But um, to each his own.
Yeah, I've done all of it. I've had employee insurance through a job I had before, and it was terrible. It was 100% worse than I think a lot of the marketplace plans. It didn't cover like basic services like preventative. All it covered was like some like major stuff, and then I still had to pay for that. So
Yeah.
like I don't understand like people who claim that that's the solution, like employer sponsored.
As
It's
one,
not like your employer really wants to pay you a really good salary to begin with
right,
in
so
most places.
a lot of people are younger, don't understand how good Medicaid and Medicare actually are. I actually do, and I didn't notice it until about 5 years ago, because I used to spend $1,800 a month for healthcare for my family because I've always been an entrepreneur. So I paid enormous amounts, $20,000 plus a year for healthcare insurance. Yeah, I remember those days well. And this is in the early 2000s through 2014. I paid a lot of money for healthcare. And then when COVID hit and I left the tech job that I was at, I went on Medicaid, because that's Medicare is for people who are older. So I went on state Medicaid and I blew out my ACL. I didn't pay a penny. I mean, I'm not kidding. I didn't pay a single penny. I was in the office 2 days later. I was in surgery a week later. No, actually I had to wait like 3 weeks because they want the swelling to come down. But anyway, just don't want to be inaccurate. So about 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, I'm in surgery. I didn't get a single bill. I didn't have a single complication with the payment process or the system. And it was the best healthcare that I ever had. And I don't feel ashamed about it at all because I paid in a massive amount of money into my career in taxes. And that's the way healthcare should be. And I didn't know it either before that event happened. Like, holy shit, this is great. Prescriptions, nothing, right? Cost free or free. And that's the way it should be because I pay my taxes, right? And if billionaires were paying their fair share of taxes and corporations are paying their fair share of taxes, then we could all have that same level of healthcare and wouldn't have to be paying $1,000 a month, $500 a month, $2,000 a month, whatever it would be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've had to use Medicaid, when I was like, you know, and the thing about it is it is good. It's very good
It's very
healthcare.
good.
But the point of it isn't even that, it starts with the poor, right? It obviously is a program for people that are low income, but the thing is it should be extended for people that are even middle income because the rate at which people are having less and less money, their dollar is worth less and less even making 70, 80,000 a year right now is hard for families. Like that used to be a good income. That's not a good enough income
Right.
anymore. So there needs to be this ability to have some kind of like, state or government sponsored subsidy where the, richest of us, right? Because I mean, who really needs? I did the math. Like if you really make over $400,000 a year, these people, I mean, that make millions a year, which there's not many, but there are, people out there, many that make over 400. These people, I don't see the reasoning why they would be so upset about paying a slightly higher tax so that the poor people they complain about, right? And even people that are middle class have it a little bit easier month to month. I mean, like, because if their whole argument is that they really just hate poor people or that they hate, the sick and yada yada, it's like, well, you're going to have to come to reality, right? Is that there's a lot of people that have pre-existing conditions. There's a lot of people that don't have the money to afford certain, surgeries or certain things for their kids, and you're not going to make them bankrupt, right? And then force them and their kids into some situation where they have to potentially, right? Which this does happen,
Right.
they potentially have to become a criminal.
And at the end of the day,
So
you're not
that's
paying any more because if you're paying it through your company right now, or you're paying it as an individual, if you just pay it to the government, what's the difference, right? And the government is actually going to be able to deliver that healthcare less expensively because it's going to make sure there's limits on how much certain things can be charged for. So it's not even raising the taxes. It's you're already being taxed at the corporate level by your company essentially to have healthcare, or you're just paying it out of pocket, which you may not call that a government tax, but that's an expense. They're all expenses. And
I got a question for you.
yeah, and I would just one thing, but I'd also argue if you raise taxes on billionaires and corporations, then you wouldn't even have to be taxed anymore whatsoever. So, hey, go ahead, Billy.
I'm sorry for the background noise. That was my fault. I apologize.
No worries.
What do you think if the government doesn't open and they can't pass it, and it looks like even if they opened the government tomorrow, they wouldn't be able to pass a bill in time, and all these insurance rates skyrocket across the country. What do you think is going to happen when like 100 million people cancel their insurance?
I think what might happen is Trump declares that he has to take over spending since the Congress can't do it. So he assumes the power of the purse. It goes to court, or it's going to go to court where he probably wins it because it's his Supreme Court. And then he can dish out money how he sees fit. Right? If he takes over, the constitutional duty of what Congress is to control the budget and control spending, I think his plan is to take over spending, and then he can disseminate it how he wants to. So, just like the soybean farmers that get reimbursed for China not buying soybeans, or Argentina getting money for who knows what nefarious reason they're getting money for their beef, right? And we guarantee to purchase beef. If he takes over the power of the purse, he'll have the ability to disseminate money however he feels fit, whether
He
that's to
already has.
right. Well, it's going to get more. He has, like with Ukraine, not sending money to Ukraine and so forth, that has been congressionally approved. But they want to take over complete consolidation of power,
Yeah.
and then they'll decide how they'll reorganize things to fit into their new world order. Cricket Green 4, you're going to be up in just a moment, and then Michelle.
Hey, you can drop
I
me
think you
down
could
if you'd like.
Yeah, thanks,
you could
Billy.
even make
Thanks for
that
joining.
argument.
Ciao.
Sorry. I think you could make that argument with his ballroom deal, how
Yep.
he's got private donors paying for it.
Right. Oh my
I don't
gosh.
I
Right.
don't I don't like that idea of that it's the people's house, we should pay for it. I mean, period.
It's
I
against the
don't
law.
like this
It's a
idea that
government building and it's supposed to come from government funds. If they wanted to pay for it, it would have to come back to Congress, into the Congress's purview, and they would have to issue it. I mean, that's the point of that whole. That's the point of the Like what he's doing is constitutionally illegal.
And then
It's
furthermore, the East Wing, I like history. There was no reason for them to destroy that wing. I'm in construction. There's another way that they could have made a building on the property, a different location that they could have connected with tunnels underground.
Yep.
Like it
Dictator.
just, it's ridiculous.
Crazy Veggies, do you want to stay on, or do you want me to drop you for the next caller?
I can stay up for a little bit
Okay.
longer.
Yeah,
I
you just
guess.
drop out whenever you see fit. Obviously, you don't try and talk over people and so forth. So I like having you here, and you're welcome to stay. But don't feel obviously obligated to stay. Uh-oh. Got a little background noise. Hey, Cricket, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I've got a couple of comments. First, on the healthcare issue and the free healthcare for everybody, that's totally doable if we quit wasting money on all the pork that gets thrown into the government coffers. And part of the way that we do that, you had mentioned a different 28th Amendment than the one that has been proposed for the last 15 years, which is that Congress shall enact no law that equally what they pass for people, and they are not exempting that the average people aren't exempt from. You get that one to start off with, and you'll take a lot of the corruption out of Congress. I'd like to see an amendment.
Cricket, I may not be able to keep you up. Your signal is going in and out. We lose you for periods of time, so we can't hear your whole conversation. So I'm going to put you on mute for a moment, bring in another guest, and you can come back on when you think your connection is good. All right, Michelle, you're up next. And Cricket, I'm actually going to bump you just for a moment. You're welcome to come back just when your service is better. And Maddie, you're up next. Michelle dropped. I went doom scrolling. Nope, and Maddie's gone too. All right. I think
Tough crowd, huh?
yeah. Once they're ready to come up, they're. Well, I don't like holding people too long, but sometimes. All right, most Trump supporters can't speak. It's okay, Cricket. Well, I didn't see her comment, so someone's implying that she was a Trump supporter. That happens on a bunch of lives.
He was. What's that?
Marcus says, appointee, just Googled what you said. It's not unconstitutional, illegal. Private donors can pay to remodel. You got to give me more context than that. It's supposed to come into the purview. Government buildings typically still has to go through Congress. Congress appoints all spending in the government. So, but maybe there could be private donors. I think it is a little bit of a gray area. So I won't stand on it as absolutely illegal. Alfie, you're up next, and then Cricket Green 4, you're up as well. Let's give everybody just about 2 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next guest. Hey, Alfie, how are you?
Alfie.
Oh, hello.
Yep, you're up.
Hey, I'm just listening in. You guys are doing a great job. I just like the conversation you guys are having. So,
Thanks. Do you want to stay on and you have any questions, or are you just in the middle? Sounds like you might be in the middle of something.
yeah, I am. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. Just come back up when you have more time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, see ya. So I appreciate that. I always appreciate if you just want to say thanks for the conversations we're having here. That's always welcome. You can do so in the comments, of course, too. Hey, Cricket, how are you?
Nowhere in Colorado.
One.
One of the things I wanted to mention was you were talking about the. There we go. You're back.
Yep.
I live out in the middle of Colorado. You were talking about 28th and 29th Amendment. For the last 20 years, we've been trying to get the 28th Amendment passed, which says that Congress cannot pass any laws concerning citizens that don't equally apply to them, and they can't pass any laws applying to themselves that don't equally apply to citizens, which then keeps them from doing a lot of their nefarious things. I would like to see another amendment that says that if Congress shuts down because they can't agree with each other, then it immediately, they're all fired and cannot run again, and it goes to back to a public vote for new Congress people. That will stop them from holding people hostage so that they can pull their little games on everybody. They're not representing the public at all, and it's time that we get rid of this mess that we've got.
Yep.
I agree.
Same. Hard to argue with any of that. And it's all nuanced. You know, what the specific rules and laws or amendments should be, and they can be discussed, right? But we all have the same sort of direction that we're headed.
Yeah, and the one thing that's never going to happen is Congress is never going to pass anything that's going to malaffect them. So we're going to need the Convention of States to be able to bring in these amendments.
That's right. So you can do it two ways. You can do it through a convention of states, but you still need to get enough politicians that are listening to the public, or you can replace those politicians with new politicians that will do exactly that in terms of an amendment process, whether it's the Constitution of States or it's just 2/3 of the congressional leaders, just not even 2/3, just obviously, 2/3 enacting an amendment, right? Whether it's through constitutional states or not. Yep, we're all on board, absolutely, and that's the message for people. That's our common enemy, is the corruption by politicians and the corruption by special interest and all the different factors therein. If we can get rid of those, but it's going to take 50 million people, like Congress, like you said. Congress is never going to do it unless there's a mass movement of people from the ground up that force people to do it, whether that's through a new party, an independent movement, or the existing parties. It doesn't really matter the mechanism we use. But at the end of the day, if there's not at least 50 million people probably demanding it, it probably never happens.
Amen.
Well, with the Convention of States, it doesn't use congressional politicians, so they don't get a vote on it. It is the people vote through their state's representation, and so that bypasses the crooks in Congress.
It's one or the other.
Second thing I wanted to bring up is
it's one or the other.
on the
It could.
healthcare issue. There's some very simple things.
Yeah, we got a pretty good lag. Cricket, I'd love to have you keep you on.
The second thing I wanted to bring up is on the.
All right, that's too much delay. So Cricket, my apologies. We had too much delay with your connection. I wanted to hear you out, but the delay was probably 15 seconds long, and that doesn't make for obviously a good discussion. So if you can come back up when you have a better connectivity, that would be great.
It's those Colorado mountains.
I was gonna say the same thing. Colorado is very mountainy, and I don't think cell towers and whatnot connect very good through there.
How do you guys know it's Colorado?
He said he was from Colorado.
Oh, I missed that.
Yep.
Okay.
User, good old Colorado. I've heard some
Unless
stuff
he was
about
out.
Colorado.
Unless he was out in the plains. I was born in Pueblo, West Colorado, so
Yeah.
I think that's the first place that legalized the funky lettuce.
that was California.
Did either of you guys?
Oh, really?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Did either of you guys, from the last two callers that had similar ideas, did either of one stand out as more or potentially viable at the same level as the 28th Amendment that I sort of depict and the 29th Amendment? Because I'm always looking for, what's the most efficient way to do it. So did anything stand out to either of you? Like, okay, that's a better idea than making sure you remove that corporations are not people and money is not speech and sort of
I think Cricket's perspective may be the way that you start it, because who's in there now will not pass this 28th and 29th. So maybe the order of operations is you use the Convention of States to put new people in that then can enact these different, your 28th and 29th.
Well, Convention of States still requires 34 state legislatures to call a
Okay.
convention of states, or 2/3 of Congress can do the same thing. So it's an either or. Convention of states can be called by the states or by Congress.
That's really not my specialty. I'd have to find a
Okay.
high levels constitutionalist to tell me how that would work.
Yeah, I was looking at some comments as well as they were speaking, so I didn't quite take the notes on what it would be. Because I think, at the end of the day, what it exactly is maybe less relevant than what's easier to message. I think it's the messaging, like if you just say there's 27 amendments now, and this has been my thinking, if there's 27 amendments now, let's figure out a way, whether it's the Convention of States or another form, a third party or whatever it might be, and make sure we get a 28th and 29th Amendment, and here's what they are. I think both other callers said there's something existing. They were pointed to something else that was existing. One of the things that was existing, and I forget what the other one was. But anyway, yeah, they can always DM me. So if you guys have any thoughts on something that could work better, send me a DM. Happy to hear it and see if it makes sense. And it's all about what's the easier way to connect more people together to actually enact some change. All right.
Like you've said, it's messaging.
Yeah. Crazy Veggies, any final thoughts? I think I'm going to shut down for today. If there's any final thoughts, let them rip.
Yeah, hope everybody starts to realize, I guess, I think they're starting to realize what's going on. But yeah, everybody just needs to pay attention before it's too late, because there's a lot of people that you can look and see in the news, and I listen to the police scanner as well. There is chaos happening because of what's going on with the shutdown and what's going on with so I mean it's a very real thing. There's lots of negative stuff happening in the country, and not paying attention to the reality of it and where it's coming from is the problem, I think. But hopefully they come up with a resolution, and we don't have to keep going down this road, because if it keeps going, it will affect people that are non-combatants and innocents, right? People that aren't even political are going to be affected, right? And that's a shame. So
Right. All right. Well said, Mr. Global. Any parting thoughts?
No, I keep fighting the fight, keep pushing head down, and keep spreading the message. That's really all we can do right now. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. Thank you both for joining. I'm going to go through a closing, and then I'll talk to you guys in the future.
Sounds good.
All right. So those of you that are remaining here, please stick around for just one more minute. 81 of you, please stick around. If you haven't already done so, there's a link under my profile that brings you to this page. It looks like this. Please take a look at it. Subscribe to this, specifically this platform right there. It's the fifth one down. And also just take a look at the first link. It says, "Are you in?" If you can just leave an email and a name, that would be awesome. So in the future, if I need to communicate things with you, I will not spam you. This only goes for my purpose, maybe once a month, and I don't expect to send out any emails for a very long time. And then the second and the third link right there are the articles to a citizen's plan to bring representation back to the people. So those of you who haven't heard my lives before, I'm not just talking about problems. I actually have a plan, and I welcome as many people to read it on Medium and on our Substack. It's the same plan on both links. But read the plan, see if it makes sense to you. And then if you're in, please drop your email right there. And then if you happen to know anybody that wants to help. So I say that I've gone from 16,000 followers in the past week to 32,000 today. So people think like, yeah, this is not even a drop in the bucket, but I want to keep, it's growing. It's growing quickly, so I'd ask you to please follow, and we'll see where it leads to in the future. And once we get to 100,000 and then 1 million, then we can actually start taking some real action. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see everybody on the next one.